War came crashing into our lives on February the 24th, 2022, like a storm we never saw coming. One moment we had plans, dreams, and a home filled with warmth. The next we were running for our lives, leaving behind everything we knew. At first we stayed in Kharkiv, moving to another district, desperately clinging to the hope that this nightmare would end soon. But as the bombs fell and the city shook, hope seemed to grow weaker with each passing day. For 2 weeks we hid in a basement, surrounded by darkness and fear. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by distant explosions and whispering prayers. It was cold. The walls felt like they were closing in. Time moved slowly as we were caught in a never-ending nightmare. We held on to our faith like a lifeline, believing that God was with us, even when the world above us seemed to be crumbling. Every morning we woke up not knowing if we would see the next. Every night we prayed for protection, for mercy, for a miracle. Then came the moment when we had to leave. Russian forces were closing in, and the threat of being trapped in an occupied city became too real to ignore. But fleeing was not as simple as just stepping outside. We had to leave behind my grandmother. She couldn't leave, and we couldn't take her with us. The moment we said goodbye, my heart sank. How do you walk away not knowing if you will ever see your loved ones again? I still don't know how we found the strength, except to say we had no choice. The journey out of Kharkiv was terrifying. We spent 20 hours on a bus, moving through roads filled with uncertainty. No stops, no moments of rest, only endless miles of fear. Every passing moment felt like an eternity. I held Vaz's hand tightly. My voice trembled as I prayed, Lord, protect us. Lord, lead us to safety. Faith was the only thing that kept us together, the only thing stronger than fear. When we finally reached central Ukraine, we were exhausted, but we knew we couldn't stay. We moved again, this time to western Ukraine, to a small town near Lviv. Yet, in my heart, I struggled. I longed for my grandmother, for the destroyed home we had left behind. Vaz watched me carrying the weight of everything on my shoulders, trying to be strong for us. I had no certainty, no plan, only faith. And so we followed God's path step by step, trusting that He would guide us. Months passed, we moved once more, this time to Kropyvnytski. I was wondering about that one. Where we finally reunited with my husband. It felt like a moment of peace, until one night a powerful explosion shook the ground near our home. The sound was deafening. The fear was immediate. And in that instant, we knew there was no place in this country where we could truly feel safe. It was then that we made the hardest decision we had to yet. We had to leave Ukraine. We had to start over, somewhere far away, somewhere where war would not reach us. I remember the night before we left, standing outside, looking up at the sky, wondering what lay ahead, with no answers, only faith. By God's grace, we found ourselves here. At first, it felt surreal. We had never imagined living in this land, and yet it welcomed us like a long-lost friend. The rolling green hills, the endless skies, the fresh, crisp air. It was as if we had stepped into a different world. But peace does not erase pain. Grief is something you can never explain in words. It is not the same for two people, and everyone experiences it in their own way. The loss of a home, friends, familiarity, it stays with you. The most terrible memory is of the evacuation trains. Crowds of people overwhelmed with grief as it cut off from their lives. Children going nowhere, silence, not looking at anyone. Mothers with empty eyes, holding children, clinging to their last hope. My own sons who looked at me as if I was a god who knew exactly what to do. And I didn't. I just pretended. Grief grows. It becomes a part of you. The loss of your native land, trying to find yourself in a new country. You miss the simple things, like the apps on your phone, a doctor who is always in touch. You dream of returning. But deep down you are afraid. You immerse yourself in work, you run from your thoughts, but they always catch up with you. And even in safety, the struggle does not end. We are not just refugees. We are people with skills, experience, and dreams. I had built a life of stability, a career I loved, but war and instability forced us to leave it all behind. We arrived in a new country with hope, but also with fear. Would we be able to rebuild? Would we ever feel at home again? By September, Liana had a teaching schedule, but with no materials, no textbooks, no curriculum, no guidance. She was expected to teach, but with what? She felt invisible, struggling to navigate an unfamiliar system while trying to prove herself once again. Outside of work, life was just as equally as demanding. Raising 3 children in a foreign land where everything from language to daily routines were different. At the same time, she's studying in the Open University, and Yuri is working as well. They want to try and keep learning around them despite the chaos that they've endured. The weight of these responsibilities was overwhelming, but giving up was never an option. In October, things became harder. Liana's school coordinator left, leaving her completely alone, no support, no mentor. The loneliness was suffocating. Desperate, she reached out for help, but support was limited. She spent long nights preparing lessons, adapting to her students' needs. Every day was a battle between exhaustion, pain, and determination. And this October, Liana will qualify as a secondary school teacher in the UK. We paid a high price for being strong, but deep down we knew that this was not the end. We had survived a war, loss, and we were rebuilding from nothing. This was just another obstacle, and one we will overcome. Because we are more than just refugees. Fighters don't give up. Thank you to Jane. Thank you to Rob and Gemma and Angie for all your support. And she just says, finally, thank you, God, for saving my family.